One thing we learn about when we're going through school is drugs. It's integrated into all of our school systems. We learn about different types of drugs, how they make you feel, how they affect your mind and body, how they get into your brain, etc. But what we don't really talk about, at least in earlier grade levels, is how some people take drug use to a whole new level. We don't talk about drug abuse, we don't talk about addiction, how they become addicted, or what to do if you become addicted and you want to get help. So that's what I want to talk about in this discussion. Now, what do I mean about taking drug use a little too far? I mean drug abuse, and I mean addiction, which are two different things, but we'll start with drug abuse. Drug abuse is basically a little bit more than recreational use of illegal drugs. It becomes a habit. You start doing it more and more often. This could be because of self-medication, or it could be because some friends told you to try it and you thought it'd be a good idea, so you started doing it, and then you liked it. Think of those kids in high school that were always high on something, and it could have been anything. You don't know. Those are the drug abusers. Now, the thing about abusing drugs is that it can easily become an addiction if you keep it up for too long. It more than likely will turn into addiction if the drugs are used for a long time. Addiction is defined as a physical, psychological, or both, dependence on a drug. Specifically narcotics, we'll get to that in a later part. Addiction, these people, they find themselves selling themselves on the street for money, or begging people to give them drug money, or hanging out with people that do drugs so that they can do this drug. It's not something you mess with, and it can lead to a lot of negative things. So, drugs that are typically abused and the source of addiction are narcotics. In order for a drug to be classified as a narcotic, it has to do two things. It has to put you to sleep, and it has to kill your pain. Some common narcotics are opioids, heroin, morphine, barbiturates, benzodiazepines, codeine, oxycodone, Vicodin, you name it. Many of you have probably heard of some of these before, and that's good. But what you probably haven't heard of is how really addictive these drugs can be. They act as agonists, which basically means they bind to your body's natural neurotransmitter receptors, and they act like the neurotransmitter in your brain. They give you a sense of pleasure, of that high feeling that you hear about. The product of this use is an addiction that's hard to kick, and a person that's willing to do anything to get this drug in their body. There's a bunch of ways to spot an addiction. There's warning signs. First, tolerance. If you're building up a tolerance, you're most likely getting addicted. This means your body's used to it, and they may need more to actually get high. Second, they use the drugs to avoid feelings of withdrawal, and these can be psychological or physical, such as nausea, vomiting, fever, insomnia, depression, anxiety, just to name a few. A few other signs include loss of control over the drug use. You don't enjoy things you used to enjoy, and your life begins to revolve around the use of this drug. And the last one, and pretty important in my opinion, is that they're conscious of the fact that this drug is ruining their lives and their relationships and their job opportunities and all of this, but they keep on using it anyway. A good thing though, these people who are addicted, they can get help. They're not alone in their fight, but they have to want to stop more than anything. The tricky part about quitting is remaining drug-free. There are tons of programs that addicted people can get into. There's rehabilitation centers, medical rehabilitation centers, halfway houses, support groups, you name it, and they've got it at their fingertips. The support groups are there for just that, to give support. You find a group of people who are similar, and you bring them together to discuss their problems and work through them. Medical rehabilitation centers, great for people who have serious addictions and don't think that they can do it without help. From there, they'll probably go to a halfway house where they can learn to remain drug-free and get integrated back into society by working with people who are just like them. As you can see, addiction is not a joke. In the process, people lose everything. Their whole lives fall apart in front of them, and they're too high to notice, but eventually they'll come to, and they'll have to make a decision. They have these services at their fingertips if they do get addicted, and they can take advantage of all of them, and they can finally start over again.